It was a night of unforgiving cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. A night where the wind howled like a banshee, and the snow fell in thick, blinding sheets. This was the night my friends and I ventured into the Alaskan wilderness. We were young, eager for adventure, and completely unprepared for the horror that awaited us. Our plan was simple, or so we thought. We were going to hike to a remote cabin, a relic from the gold rush era, and spend a long weekend ice fishing. We'd packed our gear, checked the weather reports, or so we thought, and set off with high spirits. Little did we know that the wilderness had other plans for us. Plans that involved fear, isolation, and a desperate fight for survival. The Alaskan wilderness is a place of breathtaking beauty, but also one of unforgiving harshness. Towering mountains pierce the sky, their peaks lost in swirling clouds. Dense forests of spruce and pine stretch as far as the eye can see, their branches heavy with snow. Frozen lakes and rivers snake through the landscape, their surfaces treacherous and unpredictable. It's a place where nature reigns supreme, and humans are merely visitors, subject to its every whim. As we hiked deeper into the wilderness, the familiar world faded away. The sounds of civilization were replaced by the crunch of our boots on the snow and the mournful cry of the wind. The air grew colder, biting at any exposed skin. The sun, a pale ghost behind the clouds, offered little warmth. Still we pressed on, our excitement growing with every step. We were venturing into the unknown, and for a brief time, it felt exhilarating. There were 3 of us on that fateful trip. Mark, the experienced outdoorsman, always prepared for the unexpected. Sarah, the pragmatic one, with a level head on her shoulders, and me, the storyteller, always drawn to adventure, no matter how ill-advised. We were an unlikely trio, but we shared a love for the outdoors and a belief that we could handle anything nature threw at us. We were wrong. The wilderness had its own plans for us, plans that we could never have anticipated. Mark led the way, his compass and map his constant companions. He was our guide, our beacon in the vast, white expanse. Sarah kept a watchful eye on our supplies, making sure we had enough food, water, and fuel to last the trip. Her meticulous nature was our safety net, and me? I documented our journey, snapping pictures and jotting down notes, eager to capture the beauty and grandeur of this frozen world. My camera was my constant companion, my way of making sense of the harsh yet stunning environment around us. We were a team, each of us playing a crucial role in our little expedition. Our bond was our strength, our shared determination our shield against the elements. We had no idea that our roles were about to become a matter of life and death. The challenges we faced would test not only our skills but our very will to survive. The wilderness was beautiful, but it was also unforgiving, and we were about to learn that the hard way. As the day wore on, the weather began to turn. The wind picked up, transforming from a gentle breeze to a howling monster. The snow, which had been falling steadily all day, intensified, becoming a thick, swirling curtain that obscured our vision. The temperature plummeted, and the air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding. It was as if the wilderness itself was warning us to turn back. We pressed on, our pace slowing, our laughter fading. The once familiar trail was now barely visible beneath the accumulating snow. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like the mournful cries of lost souls. And then, we heard it, a low growl, deep and guttural, echoing through the forest. We stopped, our blood running cold. Was it just the wind playing tricks on us? Or was it something else, something far more sinister?
"Did you hear that?"
Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind.
"Hear what?"
Mark replied, his face etched with concern. "That growl," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "It sounded like a bear?" Sarah finished, her eyes wide with fear. Mark let out a short, humorless laugh. "Don't be ridiculous," he said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Bears are hibernating this time of year, it was probably just the wind." "Yeah, probably just the wind," I echoed, trying to convince myself as much as them. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. We were alone in the wilderness, a blizzard was raging around us, and something out there had made a sound that chilled us to the bone. Section 6, Lost in a Whiteout of Terror. The blizzard intensified, becoming a raging monster of wind and snow. Visibility dropped to mere feet and the trail, already faint, disappeared completely. We were lost, hopelessly disoriented at the mercy of the storm. "We need to find shelter," Mark shouted, his voice barely audible above the roar of the wind. "Now!" We stumbled blindly through the blinding whiteout, our fear growing with every passing moment. The wind tore at us, trying to rip us apart. The snow, driven by the gale, stung our faces like tiny needles. We were losing hope, our bodies growing weary, our spirits starting to break. Then, just when we thought all was lost, we saw it. A faint light flickering in the distance. Could it be the cabin, or was it just a cruel trick of the storm, a beacon of false hope? Section 7. Hope flickers like a dying flame. We stumbled towards the light, our breaths visible in the frigid air, each step a monumental effort. The snow was relentless and the cold seeped into our bones, but that distant glow was our only beacon of hope. Our last reserves of strength, fueled by desperation, we pushed forward. The wind howled around us, a constant reminder of the storm's fury. Every muscle in our body screamed for rest, but we couldn't stop now. As we drew closer, the light grew brighter, cutting through the oppressive darkness. It was like a promise of warmth and safety, urging us onward despite our exhaustion. And then, through the swirling snow, we could make out the silhouette of a small wooden structure. It was the cabin! We had found it! Relief washed over us, giving us a final burst of energy. We practically fell through the door, collapsing in a heap on the rough wooden floor. The warmth inside was a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. Collapsing in a heap on the rough wooden floor, we felt a momentary sense of safety. Our bodies were exhausted, but our spirits were momentarily lifted. The cabin was small, barely more than a shack, but it was a sanctuary. The walls were rough-hewn, and the furnishings were basic, but it was enough. It was shelter from the storm, a fragile barrier against the elements. Outside, the wind continued to howl, but inside we had a brief respite. A fire crackled in the old stone fireplace, its warmth seeping into our frozen limbs. The flames danced, casting a warm glow on the rough-hewn walls. The firelight illuminated the interior, making the small space feel almost cozy. We had found refuge, but for how long? The storm raged outside, shaking the cabin to its core. The wind battered the walls, and the entire structure seemed to tremble. We knew that this fragile shelter might not withstand the storm's full fury. We huddled around the fire, our bodies shivering uncontrollably. The warmth was a welcome relief, but it couldn't completely chase away the chill that had settled deep within us. We were safe for now, but the reality of our situation was sobering. We were stranded, miles from civilization, with no way to contact help. The isolation was palpable. The snowstorm had cut us off from the world, and we had no idea how long it would last. Our supplies were limited, and the cold was unrelenting. With no way to contact help, we were on our own. The storm had knocked out any chance of communication, leaving us to rely on each other for survival. As the night wore on, the storm showed no signs of abating. The wind howled, and the snow continued to fall, piling up against the cabin walls. The relentless snowstorm outside was a constant reminder of our predicament. We were trapped, and the storm's fury seemed endless. We knew that our ordeal was far from over. The storm had us in its grip, and we could only hope that our fragile refuge would hold until help arrived. Section 8. The will to survive burns bright. We spent the next 3 days and nights trapped in that cabin as the blizzard raged outside. The wind howled like a wild beast, shaking the very foundations of our small refuge. Snow piled up against the windows, creating an impenetrable barrier between us and the outside world. We rationed our food and water, sharing stories and offering each other words of encouragement. Each meal was a small victory, a testament to our determination to survive. We spoke of our families, our dreams, and the lives we hoped to return to once the storm had passed. We kept the fire burning, a symbol of hope in the face of despair. The warmth of the flames was a stark contrast to the icy world outside, a reminder that we were still alive, still fighting. The firelight danced on the walls, casting shadows that seemed to tell stories of their own. Mark, ever resourceful, managed to rig up a makeshift antenna using parts from our broken radio and a metal coat hanger. His ingenuity was a beacon of hope, a sign that we were not giving up. He worked tirelessly, his hands numb from the cold, but his spirit unwavering. He spent hours fiddling with it, trying to pick up a signal, any signal. The static was relentless, a constant reminder of our isolation. But Mark's determination was unyielding. He knew that a single voice, a single message could mean the difference between life and death. Finally, on the third day, as the storm began to subside, he heard it. a faint voice crackling through the static. We had made contact. The relief was palpable, a wave of emotion that swept through the cabin. We were no longer alone. Help was on the way. A rescue team arrived later that day, their snowmobiles cutting through the newly fallen snow. The sound of their engines was the sweetest music we had ever heard. They brought with them the promise of safety, of warmth, and of home. We emerged from the cabin, blinking in the sunlight, our faces gaunt, our bodies weary, but our spirits unbroken. The sun felt like a blessing, its rays a gentle caress after days of darkness. We had survived the storm, and in doing so, we had discovered a strength we never knew we had. We had faced the fury of the Alaskan wilderness and emerged victorious. The bonds we forged in that cabin, the lessons we learned about resilience and hope, would stay with us forever. We had not just survived, we had triumphed. Section 9. Lessons etched in ice and snow. Our ordeal in the Alaskan wilderness was a harrowing experience, one that tested us to our very limits. But it was also a profound learning experience, one that taught us the true meaning of courage, resilience, and the importance of never giving up hope. We had made mistakes, misjudged the weather, and ventured into the unknown ill-prepared. But we had also learned from those mistakes. We had discovered a strength within ourselves that we never knew we possessed. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger on the other side. Our story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when all hope seems lost, the human spirit can endure. It's a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of teamwork, and the unwavering belief that even in the face of overwhelming odds, survival is possible.